That's a low point in the industry. It's a growing pain. It's a brutally expensive market lesson, but it just reminds you of the corrupting influence of the industry. There are so many people that are counterfeiting money or they're just stealing the money. I think it'll be probably 3 to 5 years before we know the extent of that corrupt money. But I don't think that there are many people that weren't tainted. They went to pretty much every crypto influencer, every journalist, every politician, every entrepreneur, every educator, everyone that would take their money. So I think it's been a brutally painful year, one of the more difficult years, but it's a necessary rite of passage. The positive of 2022. I think the most positive thing of the year is the emergence of Bitcoin as the institutional grade digital asset and the clarity that has arrived to the mainstream media and to institutions and to the government that there's one crypto asset that's a digital commodity. I think Bitcoin is that commodity. At this point, it's been iterated by the chair of the SEC, and it is now just iterated by the chair of the CFTC. I think we went in 2 years from people on Twitter lamenting the lack of mainstream coverage of Bitcoin. There was no coverage at all, to a point where we saw 5 stories in a single day on the front page of the Wall Street Journal. And we saw stories about the industry, go to the New York Times, the Journal, Forbes, Fortune. We saw the spin up of Bloomberg Crypto. So a lot of mainstream coverage, the legitimacy or the legitimization of the asset class. It's clear that there's been a lot of crypto carnage and a lot of broken glass and a lot of pain for Bitcoiners, even more pain for non-Bitcoiners or crypto token people, right? Where they watch their Terra and Luna go to zero, and a lot of crypto banks closed their doors and went to zero. So we have seen a crash to zero of lots and lots of things in the ecosystem, but I think this is a necessary maturing process for the industry, and that digital assets are here to stay, and that the entire world needs to embrace the crypto economy one way or the other. And the other thing is that the one crypto commodity that exists in the world that's universally agreed upon is Bitcoin. So that being the case, Bitcoin is the most stable thing in the universe, and if we're not banning it, then it's only going to grow. Well, I mean, what really makes you angry? What makes you angry is all the crypto neo banks and wildcat banks that collected people's money, or either got people's Bitcoin or they got their money to buy Bitcoin. And then they either never bought the Bitcoin, or they bought the Bitcoin and then panic sold or sold the Bitcoin in a fire sale as they were being forced liquidated. But it really makes you angry when you read about, say FTX that collected billions and billions of dollars but never bought the Bitcoin, actually. So why is this a problem? If FTX stole billions of dollars in a BlockFi and Voyager and Three Arrows and Celsius and Terra Luna, if all of those ecosystems basically collected people's money and then lost all the money, then people that legitimately wanted to own Bitcoin had their money stolen from them. And I think that that's tragedy. I mean, it's bad for them, right? It's awful for anyone who had their money stolen from them. And it's not good for Bitcoin, because billions and billions of dollars of Bitcoin was stolen and / destroyed, right? I send you $20 billion to buy Bitcoin. You take the Bitcoin, you steal the money, and the Bitcoin doesn't get bought, right? Or I send you 20 billion worth of Bitcoin, and then you loan it out to someone that invested in Terra Luna, and Terra Luna goes to zero, and then the Bitcoin never comes back, And so what happened? They converted the Bitcoin into Terra Luna, or converted the Bitcoin into FTT or the equivalent, and then that went to zero, right? So that kind of makes you mad. It's not the finest moment for the crypto industry. And, you would say you probably shouldn't have trusted any of these people, but there are a lot of decent people that did trust them, right? There's a lot of Bitcoin influencers, and they were sponsored by Blockfolio and FTX and Celsius and some of the other players in the space. If you were sponsored by Voyager or BlockFi or FTX, and then someone decided to use one of those, then they've suffered. That's a low point in the industry. It's a growing pain. It's a brutally expensive market lesson, but it just reminds you of the corrupting influence of the industry. There are so many people that are counterfeiting money, or they're just stealing the money. FTX invested $5.6 billion in FTX Ventures. They must have spent another $2 billion in marketing or more in the 2 years. So they poured about $7.5 billion into the economy, and they did it by, in essence, counterfeiting $10 billion or more worth of tokens like FTT and SRM, and they boosted Solana, and they boosted Maps, and then they went and they borrowed real money. They borrowed as much as they could, posting that collateral from counterparties that, they borrowed from BlockFi and, borrowed from Voyager, and probably borrowed from Three Arrows, or they borrowed from anybody that would have made a loan to them. And then they borrowed from their own depositors at FTX. And of course, they then raised billions of dollars from outside investors. And they took all that money and they in essence corrupted everybody they could, right? So you give $45 million to Block, right? $45 million to a handful of journalists. What could go wrong, $15 million to one influencer who will remain nameless that everybody knows. And I think it'll be probably 3 to 5 years before we know the extent of that corrupt money. But I don't think that there are many people that weren't tainted. They went to pretty much every crypto influencer, every journalist, every politician, every entrepreneur, everybody every educator, everyone that would take their money. It's hard to figure out who in the industry didn't end up with some of that money. So the counterfeiters have an advantage in the war over the sound money people, right? Nobody's taking $7.5 billion of Bitcoin and using it to taint politicians and taint the media, because it's $7.5 real dollars, right? It's hard to come by that money. But if you just gin up $7.5 billion worth of, FTT token, right? That's made up money. I mean, Sam pretty much created that money in 12 months, maybe 18 months max. In order to create another $1 billion, he just needed to manipulate the price up $3 a token. How hard is that? Not hard at all. He basically took the money from his own customers off the exchange, traded it with himself, manipulated the price up $3, declared $1 billion worth of earnings, and then went and spent it. And how he spent it, he bought everybody. We got lucky that FTX blew up because they were very close to bribing, or corrupting the entire establishment. Right? We'll see just how far they got. So I think it's been a brutally painful year. One of the more difficult years, but it's a necessary rite of passage. That the real issue here is the regulators need to enforce the law. And what you've got is a lot of people that are lying, cheating, and stealing. You kind of need your own vigilantes, right? So you end up with the Bitcoin maximalist pointing out the scams and the frauds, and they stand up and say, look, we're just not going to let you abuse people like that. And so and they pay a personal price to do it. But I think that happened. And then the future is Bitcoin, and it's obviously a volatile path to Bitcoin, but we're moving in the right direction. Bitcoin is stronger today than it was 2 years ago, or 4 years ago, or 6 years ago, or 8 years ago. And I think you just got to keep your head down, nose to the grindstone, and move forward. I think you just got to take the long view, right? I mean, if you have a less than 4-year time horizon, you're just a trader. You're just a speculator. And if you think you're going to hold Bitcoin for 4 to 10 years, you don't understand Bitcoin yet. You should probably go study it hard, right? Because I think once you understand Bitcoin, you got to have a 10-year plus time horizon. And when you really understand it, you realize you should have a 100-year time horizon. In any event, I don't think it matters at the end of the day, right? You've got volatility as a digital monetary asset is coming to life, and as we monetize Bitcoin. So two thoughts. One, I never really took a 100-year time horizon. I never considered investing in anything for 100 years before I discovered Bitcoin. Mm-hmm. If you had asked me, in the year 2020, in March of 2020, is there anything that you would invest in for 100 years? Is it even relevant to ask about the outlook for the asset in multiple decades? I would have said, you're crazy, right? You don't know what Google's going to do in 100 years. You don't know what Apple will be. I mean, you don't know. And it was only after discovering Bitcoin that I started thinking different. And if you roll the clock back to like the first podcast I did after I bought Bitcoin, people asked me about Bitcoin. I said, well, I looked at it versus gold, and I started analyzing it, and I was trying to figure out which one was better, because it was the question of, do I buy 500 million of Bitcoin or 500 million of gold? And once I, read the Bitcoin standard, and I started understanding stock to flow, and I started thinking about hardness of a commodity, I realized, well, the half-life of gold is 35 years.